Look at that, guys. Now that is pretty cool. Jeremy helped me do that. The reason is so that it'd be easier for me to weld and grind and cut and everything underneath there. I've got these Jcr Frame Strengtheners over here, but they're made for a Cherokee. So I was looking at the frame just now. The unibody of this Comanche is completely different than a Cherokee. Nothing about it is the same. So I'm going to try to make these Jcr Frame Strengtheners work. I've got the center section and the front section. If they don't work, I'll modify them. Well, I know I'm going to have to modify them, but I might have to add a lot of metal to them because it's just the unibody is just completely different. So what I'm going to do right now, though, my plan is to put the leaf springs on from the CJ. And so this is kind of the same thing that you would do on a Cherokee when you're putting a long arm lift on, is to cut this piece out. But on the Comanche, for some reason, it's way more beefy than on a Cherokee. Not only does it have this bracket here, but then it's also got this other huge bracket that runs way down here. So cutting that off is going to be a chore. It's also welded in on the backside over here. I don't know why it's so much beefier than on the Cherokee. I might take out these two. I'm not going to need these. That might save me some space for the headers and all the stuff that has to come down through here. And I can't do it yet, but I'm going to have to modify the tunnel because I have a passenger side drop now instead of a driver side drop. And that means the transfer case, instead of sitting over here, you can see how it's wider on that side. But now it needs to shift over to this side. So I'm going to have to modify the floor pans probably and the tunnel for that. And I might take off these brackets too. These brackets on the Comanche are for the cross member. It's beefier right here for the cross member too. Instead of having 2 bolts here like the Cherokee, it has 4 bolts. Why? I don't know. Don't really know. This was only a two-wheel drive version also, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And of course I've got the floorboards cut out, so that's why there's huge holes there. And I might have to take these brackets off of the bottom. Anyway, let's get to it. When I was cutting that off, I got to thinking that this probably looks really intimidating to a lot of you guys, and really that's only because I'm doing a lot of projects at the same time. So I've got the floorboards cut out, I'm plasma torching this off, and I've got it leaned back at an angle. Of course that's not necessary, it just makes it easier for me to stand here and video it instead of trying to do it up underneath there. I'm using the plasma cutter, which most people would be using an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. But it's just faster when you have a plasma cutter, but it's not necessary. You don't have to have that. So, so this is just what this looks intimidating, but this is just what anybody would do when you're cutting that bracket off for a long arm kit or something like that. Alexa, pause. burning my hair. All right, check out what I've got going on now. I cut both of those brackets off there. I cut the upper control arm mounts off. I cut off this cross member support. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to be able to plate the entire unibody subframe. A lot of this has spot welds holding it in. And if you look down here, I've left one. I've cut the spot welds with the plasma torch. And if you do it just right, you'll be able to knock that off with the hammer afterwards. Let's see. You have to get them all. That one wasn't too bad. So the next thing I'll do is take a flap disc and clean up all of this. Make it nice and flat again. And if you're not familiar with what a flap disc is, it goes on your angle grinder and it looks like this. It's a bunch of sandpaper flaps, basically. Come on. Focus! There we go. And this one's made by Camel. I get these locally at a place called Top Dog Tool online. If I can find a link, I'll leave a link to these in the description below. These are my favorite ones right here. They're super thick, thicker than most that you find anywhere else. This is 40 grit, and it works so much better than a grinding disc. Here's a little tip for you guys. I've shown you guys this before, but if you're new to the channel, you might not have seen it. You don't have to go grab this tool every time you want to change the head on this thing. You just lock it down and you smack it like that. It comes off, put your new one on, and you're going to do the same thing. Once you get this tightened down, you just smack it the other way. There you go. Look how shiny that is. Everything's nice and clean now. I want to put the Jcr stuff up there and see if it fits on the Comanche. Let's do that. I think that's going to actually fit better than I thought it would. Those holes match up. Looks like, I don't know if these holes will match up or not, but I cut those off anyway. But those are the little bolts that stick down for the cross member. I don't need it to match, but it looks like it's very close. You might just have to bring that out a little more if you're going to use this on a Comanche. So almost, but not quite. If you look right here, the unibody strengtheners for the Cherokee have these double bends in it right there to conform to the frame. On the Comanche though, that ends right here and then it just becomes a 90-degree bend. So looks like what I'm gonna do is I'll probably cut it right here. So from the middle section all the way to that first line, it's good, and then from there on it just needs to be angle. And of course this needs to come up a little bit. This one maybe to come down a little bit, but those two should line up hopefully, and then we'll be off to the races. Then I'll just make my own from there down. It'll be pretty simple because it's just angle, so I'll just use a cardboard template to make that side, and then the bottom side, weld them together. I've got some 1/4 inch plate over here on the floor. Use my plasma cutter to cut that out. We'll get it done. Man, I've been doing this all day. Now it's dark outside. It's getting really cold. I can't really close the doors though and turn the heat on because doing all this welding and stuff is really nasty. Clogs up the air and whatnot. Anyway, let's see what I've done. So I welded that piece on and that piece on. Probably thinking, so what? That was a lot of work. Holy smokes. I also just made this template and I'm gonna make my own pieces for right here. So this is the template and then I'll make another template for the bottom. But I just need to get this off the floor, trace it out and cut it with the plasma. Alright, so we've got our bracket here. If you look at the JCR brackets, you'll see that this divot comes down so you can weld onto the frame and then onto the top. I was looking around to see how to do that and actually remembered I had these 911 Motorsports templates. They actually make this plasma table as well. It's got water in it and it keeps the dust and debris inside there. So that'll be perfect for replicating the JCR brackets. Isn't that cool? Okay, well there she is. That's the final piece. I made some holes right here so that I could weld it in more spots. I made a relief cut here because the frame actually bends right there. So all I need to do is clamp that in right there, bend that in, weld it up, and now I need to make this bottom piece as well. When I'm doing the bottom piece, I'm thinking about other things that I need as well, like I'm going to have some sort of skid plate on here. So what I did up here is I cut a hole in the original frame here. I welded a nut to the back side of this thick steel, and that way when I build my skid plate I can just align it to those holes. I did that on the Scorpion crawler and it worked out really well. And I'm doing those about every 10 inches or so. I don't know where the skid plate's going to go right now, but if I have one every 10 inches, I'm sure there'll be plenty of nuts that I can have a bolt going through the skid plate. There'll be plenty of spots to do that. Alright folks, through the power of video editing, it's all done. Check it out. So that piece goes there. Oh! When I finish this piece up, got the nuts on the back for the skid plate. It's got a hole in it right here for water to drain out. There it goes. Right there. Just need to tack that up and then weld it. I've got a hole right here because eventually I'm going to have a tube coming through here for something else. That's later on down the road. So anyway, let's tack this up. Alright guys, I'm beat. It's now 10 p.m. I've been at this all day, and that's all I got for you today. But I think that was pretty successful. Almost got one side completely done here on the frame strengtheners. Tomorrow I'll do this side. No need to video that. It's pretty much the same as the other side, except opposite. Anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. Leave your comments or questions below. I do read every single one of them, and I try to answer the ones that have questions in them that I know how to answer. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to support us through Patreon at patreon.com/BleepinJeep. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.